putting in emails. Like as soon as you sent the email to everyone, I forwarded it to like everyone.
Thank you.
I'll be there.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Smiths Falls Equity for All Committee for May 8th, 2025. On May 8th, 2025, we acknowledge that the sacred land in which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and its rich Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might be here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, and drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. So I'll call the meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. Looking for a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Katie, seconded by Peter. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Adoption of minutes. I hope I have a chance to review the minutes from April 10th. Moved by Diana, second by Nicole. All in favor? That is carried. Ask for disclosure of monetary interest. Seeing none, hearing none. And our delegation.
Let me just give Catherine, she couldn't be here, but she said that we could give her a quick call.
Okay.
To give a quick update on Pride celebrations. Hoping she answers.
Excuse me.
Hi, Catherine. It's Carrie Costello calling from the town of Smiths Falls. How are you? Good. We're in our Smiths Falls Equity for All meeting, and I was just going to put you on speakerphone so that you could possibly take a couple moments to give the group an update on the Pride celebrations. Okay, give me one sec. Okay, you're on speakerphone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me join in this morning. So we're running Pride this year in collaboration, of course, with the town, but also with the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be happening on Friday, June 6th from 4 to 9 p.m. I'm not sure if we're going to get quite to 9, but we'll be ready to stay until 9. It's going to be a street party on Russell Street East. So sort of that strip where we have the Craft Witch and Bowie's and so that really popular part of town. We are going to be having lots of vendors. We have 4 wonderful drag queens, 3 of which performed last year. I don't know if any of you were able to brave the rain, but they were absolutely spectacular, family-friendly drag queens. And the theme is from the song Pink Pony Club. So there'll be lots of rainbows, but also pink pony decor, possibly even an inflatable pink pony costumes. It might even be me dancing around on Friday. We will have a DJ, but we've also invited 89.9 Hot, the radio station. I believe I just got a text this morning. I haven't had the chance to check my email, the Pride email, but I'm hoping they're confirming. And so they'll be doing they'll be helping out with promotion. They'll set up a big giveaway table and then play lots of great music for us as well. Let me kind of think if I'm missing anything. I'm going through my mental list here. We've also Carrie, you may be able to speak more to this than me, but I know Catherine Pogue, one of our other organizers, has been in connection with the town about doing a flag raising and sort of combining, the flag raising and then leading right into the street party. There won't be a parade. I guess also the other Pride groups in the region, we won't be doing a driving parade anymore. We have discontinued that. So we're hoping to confirm the flag raising if it isn't already confirmed, and then do the event on Russell Street East.
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it is Catherine, but I'll double check.
Great. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, everything's a little bit fluid right now, but it seems like everything's falling nicely into place. Can I add one more little thing? It's not specifically about Pride,
Sure.
but the committee is also, we were approached by Old Home Week. So in addition, there's also going to be a Pride dance during Old Home Week on, I think it's Friday, August 8th. Pretty sure that's the date. It will be held at the Curling and Squash Club. And we'll be promoting that after all of the Pride events in June. So that's another sort of event that will be pending as well.
What date did you say that was?
I believe it's Friday, August 8th.
Okay.
But Pride is on June 6th.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll hand the chair over to Mayor Panko to see if the group has any questions.
Well, thanks, Catherine. Looks like a real great celebration to look forward to for June the 6th. Any questions or comments? Janet?
What's the reason behind not having a parade through town?
Yeah, so I did hear that question. It's why we're not having a parade. That's an excellent question. We've been working really hard to try and engage the community more to help us organize. We last year did have a larger committee, and we've never really got the whole story on what happened. But basically, they were eager to meet. But then the day of the event, I guess a number of them got ill. People didn't show. And then we just haven't had the engagement or the support. We would love to do a parade for 2026. And this is where I had mentioned in an email, I think that, you know, if we can connect with this committee, we just need more time and more sort of, again, support in the organizing side of things. It's back down to myself, Catherine Pogue, and Brian as well. It's only three of us organizing the event. And so we just don't have the people power right now to work on the parade. But I would love to do one for 2026 and, you know, get sponsorship and get corporate, you know, support and do something on a bigger scale. But for this year, this is what we were able to offer.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole?
Yeah. Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for being on the phone. It's Nicole. And I know for, in terms of Pride initiatives across Lanark County, there is a really big push within Lanark County to really advocate for each other.
Yes.
I believe there is a Perth Pride event on June 7th. So that's the Saturday.
Yes.
And there have been a bit of talks behind that event on getting transportation from other municipal areas in order to support the Perth Pride event. So I think they're trying to look into busing from Carleton Place, and maybe that's something that we could help support is busing from Smith Falls.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I mean, there's certainly a need here. So if we're able to offer busing to Perth, I think that would be wonderful.
Hi, Catherine. It's Peter McKenna here. There's a couple of people on our committee right here that are also on the Old Home Week committee.
Yes.
If we have a large parade on the Saturday, the opening of Old Home Week, I don't know if Pride has considered putting a float in, but we would just love to have a Pride presence in the parade. It's a very large parade, but you'd love to have a group if again, volunteers, I get it. I feel your pain. So, but just to flag that, if you're interested.
Well, I can speak personally, but I'm pretty confident the three of us, because we're not a very big committee right now, but I can say personally, I would be all over that. And I don't think that would be a hard thing for us to put together. You know, I've got a buddy with a truck and we can decorate, and we have a huge banner and a massive flag that we can borrow from Perth. So I would absolutely want to take you up on that invitation, and I'll definitely share that with Catherine and Brian today.
Yeah, bring those pink ponies.
The pink ponies, yes, no problem. We can even blast Pink Pony Club from the truck. Absolutely.
Details on how to register on the Old Home Week website. It's pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Thank you. No, I appreciate the invitation. I have to admit it. I think we're just a little busy, so it hadn't really crossed my mind, but I really appreciate the invitation, and I think that's a really exciting thing for us to participate in.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments? Well, Catherine, thank you so much for organizing this year's Pride event along with Catherine and Brian, and I think we all look forward to participating on the 6th.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Catherine.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our allyship pamphlet.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's me. So a couple of weeks ago, I believe 2 weeks ago, I circulated the allyship pamphlet and kind of a mirror idea. This is something that I believe Big Brothers Big Sisters, they have something called the mentoring, like a mentor and a mirror initiative in spots of Canada. I believe it's really prevalent in Alberta. But what they do is it's an initiative that in local businesses, you go in and the mirror has like, this is what a mentor looks like. And it's to help bring awareness to the cause. And so I thought, if we're trying to target youth and get youth thinking about what friendship and allyship looks like in community, maybe even asking schools or partnering with schools for their bathrooms or for spaces that they circulate, like the youth center, on doing a mirror initiative as well. So I have a little view here. This is just very draft look, just to get ideas flowing. But the statements that I have here are, allyship starts with me. This is what an ally looks like, and I am an ally. But those statements can really change based on age, space, anything. And then this is a very kind of what the pamphlet looks like now. It is in the branding of the town of Smith Falls, so everything is code compliant with branding. And I've incorporated our new Smith Falls Equity for All title that was passed by council. And so this is a trifold. I also included a little message from our mayor, if Mayor Sean Paker wanted to do a little message there. And yeah, it's just something that we can hand out to community members. I've included our powwow, our pride celebrations, and an overall image of the town to bring it back into Smith Falls. And then I have two poster ideas here. And the blank spot is what I wanted to talk to you all about. In order to bring it back to this committee and more town-centric, I was thinking that if each of us wrote a little what allyship is to me, so I could put allyship is friendship for all, would be my saying. And we put what the committee views allyship for in those blank spaces. If we need a bit more, if the statements are shorter, I can always fluff it up a little bit with other quotes. But just bringing it back into the town on, what allyship is here. I have it in a circle to kind of keep the circle view in the poster, but then I also have just rectangle posters as well, and we can play around with anything. So again, this back image is of the town, and everything is in the branding compliant font and color. It would be.
That's what I thought. I was like,
Yeah. There you go.
it's like a map.
Yeah.
Questions?
I definitely like the idea of doing the what does allyship mean for me, because I already have things that I say. So for that, and I think often like people, they don't know exactly, but like allyship is a verb and it is doing things, and so I could see having posters like just like around the town in this area, but also even just smaller ones posted on the community boards. Like when I shop at Food Basics and they have community event posters, I could see even just one that's tacked there on just around town. So I really like the accessible nature of the poster. And I also really like the decal idea on mirrors for like across town. If this could be like within businesses and even within schools, I like that
It
idea.
would just be like a sticker or whatever.
Yeah, just a
Yeah, just
sticker.
like a little sticker on the mirror.
Yeah.
Like
I'm sure all the schools would be in for that, I think. Anything to promote. So
Good
I-
word.
I really
and if
like
anybody has like a Cricut, like they can be self-made. Like we don't need to pay for. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even like bubble letters laminated. Like it could be.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could even get some of the students to make that themselves, especially in DJ or, the grade 8 and below
Mhm.
arts and crafts, right? So they can make it and put them up themselves. So they're even more part of it. Might be something
like
we can
that.
propose to them.
Very good. Some comments, Peter?
Just, I like the mirror idea. It's got my attention. I wonder about it. Did Alberta have them in public places? Like you could,
Yeah.
street art, kind of street.
I think it's more business oriented. So
Like in a
Um,
Robert's bathroom.
yes, yeah, like it's like restaurant bathrooms.
Parquet
libraries.
that they're redoing.
Yeah.
I could see 3 mirrors.
Yeah.
And it could be in continuous.
Durable.
It could be a continuous initiative, right? Where we talk about allyship, but it could also be interchangeable for kindness starts with me. Anti-bullying starts with me. Like it could really just be a space to get words out and see how we want to develop it as it goes.
Yeah. There could be like 5 or 6 like
Yeah.
different sayings.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to the brochure, I also really like the branding, and like now that I have the proper folding down. So then I'm assuming once I open it, this would actually just be
Correct.
flipped this way. I like that it doesn't say too much, I think like in this committee, like we want to talk a lot and we have a lot of things that we want to be said in here. And while like we could get in here and list like statistics and all sorts of things, I don't know how well received that
If
would
it's
be.
super busy, people are just going to be like, yeah.
I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Yes, it's too
And
much.
there's a lot going on in the world, in Canada, in our municipality. There's issues everywhere that I feel like a lot of people are kind of just feeling really weighed down by. So to open a brochure and kind of have even more, I like that this is taking a positive, like it is taking a forward action stance. So I also really like the brochure.
Is there a way on here, on the brochure, we could have I don't know, I'm thinking the pink bench, including,
Yeah.
is it in there?
I include the pink bench as a
Okay.
thing, but I can also like make it one of the pictures too. Like we can really play around with anything.
I just think that's super important as
Yeah.
well. I mean, they're all important, but
Maybe, even though the town view one is so nice, maybe
Yeah.
here
Put the
we
pink bench,
do.
yeah.
Because it's like, what is allyship? The pink, having
Yeah.
a nice photo of the pink bench there. Because I really like the other pictures as well. I wouldn't want those ones.
yeah, the
to be-
powwow, the crosswalk, I think
Yeah.
it's all super important.
I can put the pink bench there. I'm looking at it now. I know this is so down the line, but even if we wanted to look at like the idea of merchandising or getting allyship out there often, like this circle is like the perfect little mouse pad.
Or a sticker.
Like a sticker, right? Like it's just little things like that that get the, branding out there too.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I like the circle one more. Like if we had to pick our choice.
I also like the circle one. I like the circle one.
the circle as
Yeah.
well. but-
Kind of a pain to edit the like in the shape, but it is. I do like the circle one a bit more. Yes.
Yeah, Peter?
So I'm not advocating for this,
Yeah.
is there value or not to somehow, I mean, it's pretty clear the town is supporting it, but it doesn't add anything to include our logo, the town logo anywhere or not? And I'm neutral on that.
Yeah, we can put the town logo in there, and
It's busy though, like, it's busy enough, like not busy enough, there's enough content.
I think it would go on.
The mayor's there.
Yeah.
all
with
dismissed
the,
lines.
with the mayor, or even at the bottom of we're promoting a community full of allies, we can also put the town
Yeah, I
logo.
think it's important to have it there.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of stamps that it's,
Yeah.
I mean, the mayor can speak
doesn't need to be huge.
It still, it still says the town.
Yeah, like this is the town. Yeah.
The town of Smiths Falls is behind it, not
Yeah.
just this committee. I think.
Yeah.
I just, as long as it doesn't take away something.
We'll just have to cut down the mayor's words.
Give it brief.
Good luck.
Yeah.
We won't go out on-
We got one sentence.
But I like the idea of having quotes from all committee members here, just to
Yeah.
everyone have a chance to demonstrate the commitment.
Yeah, email you for what does Ally
Yeah.
ship.
You guys have done some great work on this. Is amazing.
Yeah.
What it started, your little block diagram. It's absolutely amazing.
Thanks.
So for distribution, production, have you thought about that?
Not particularly, if I'm being very honest. I'm in terms of space, I think having the trifolds available in public spaces, at town, in some of our social service agencies local to us, the youth center, maybe even dropping them off at schools. And then posters just anywhere where there's a community board or that the business will allow us to have a poster. In terms of printing, we can do simple printing in like just any printer, or we can do mass printing if we want to with a higher quality paper from local businesses. I know there's impression printing local to us, so I can always reach out and ask them if they could give us a quote.
We do have a budget, $5,000 budget for the year for committee. It's a question of how we want to use that. And I think we set it aside largely to help support an event. But perhaps we could saw off a section of that to get some print, some posters done professionally and a number of pamphlets printed.
Okay. And I can get a quote put out. I think it'll be pretty reasonable. Like I'm not seeing more than $150. I think we can do a lot for under that,
Well,
if not even that much.
do we prefer pricing?
Yeah.
We for the most part use impression for printing, so I don't know if we have like better costs or anything, but probably I agree with you, very reasonable.
Yeah, it's not a big setup. It's all to be done by the time it gets to them.
Would it be feasible to put a pamphlet out in the water bills or the bills that go out, or is that getting pretty thick with stuffing?
Well, then I think there's probably space, but then we need like almost 5,000, which would then we're talking
Increase our cost a bit. Yeah.
an awful lot more, I would think. But I guess a thought depends on the cost, or if there's a sponsor or something. But I think we're probably looking at. Let's wait till we see the pricing for printing.
Because that would be, like, I get my water bill and I'm like, oh, Town of Smiths Falls. I would love to get.
Something.
I would, yeah.
Nicole, there's another company in town, Barry Hart, who is with us at,
Or What If Graphics?
What If Graphics. is
What
the
If
name.
Graphics?
What If Graphics, yeah, Barry Hart, H-A-R-T.
You can maybe get a
The
quote
brains,
from both of
Arlene.
them.
Yeah.
And his wife Arlene, the brain. Peterson.
Okay. I will reach out to both of those spaces. And then maybe what I'll do is one of the actionables. Do you think it would be reasonable to get everybody's quote in the next 2 weeks?
Oh,
Week?
totally.
Week?
Totally.
Okay.
Well,
Absolutely.
I guess the question: would we like to have these ready by June 6th?
Yes.
Really, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the event, the Pride event
Yeah.
on Russell Street. It'd be nice to have them there for pickup and distribution.
And once we have everyone's quote, it's pretty easy for me just to input it into the graphic, play around with it a little bit, size, italics, all that good stuff. And yeah, so it's really just the quotes. And then, Mayor, I just need your statement. And then we're good to go.
Okay. With the two in the next couple days.
Yeah, I'll
Just-
email you my.
Just, there's a lot of people on committee, so that'd be a lot of quotes. If we had 3 or 4 good, is that what you're thinking? Or
Yeah.
I need every single.
I don't need my voice again.
Well, we could end up like removing like Forbes magazine
Yeah.
or something. Like there's other quotes that are kind of more filler here that are
Yeah.
great, but I think having this is within our community, right? Like
Right.
it is at our most grassroots that what matters. So I think from us is where.
Yeah. And I won't.
We kind of said this.
Yeah. And I don't put anybody, like, I can put people's names, but what I like is just having a little asterisk at the bottom of like community, like Smith Falls community members. quotes to like, you know, just
tying each person to
Yes,
their specific
yeah,
quote.
just Smith Falls, you know,
'Cause
local.
it kind of doesn't matter that it's us. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's people who live in your community
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
saying this. Yeah. I'll give you my quote like today. Literally when I get home.
Other thoughts or questions? Well done, Nicole, and we look forward to getting this finalized and printed and distributed and shared with the community.
Amazing.
Do you have time to do all this before you go though? Like, do you want help? Or-
I'm okay. I am okay. I have time set aside, and like looking at my next week at a glance, it fits okay in my schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did commit to Mitra and Chris and the committee that I do want to see this resource put through. We've put a lot of hard work into it, and so I don't want to leave it halfway done.
I appreciate it so much.
But yeah, reach out if you need extra help.
Thank you.
We're here.
Yes. When do you move?
Technically May 20th. Technically, but I am coming back and forth until July.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be here. I'll be at Pride. I'll be at Spaces.
Okay. Good stuff.
When it comes to the mirror decals, maybe I like to take something off your plate. Maybe I send an email to the local schools, letting them know like this is an idea that we have, and are they interested in participating? And if so, how many bathroom mirrors do you have? Or just kind of like get a general gauge on interest for this. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
I think they still have a group, like have high school kids in the school, like a support group.
Yeah.
Not support group's not the right word, but it's an allyship group.
Like a
There
group?
might be one already organized.
I think, yeah, they have I think they have a Pride Club,
Yeah.
but they don't call it Pride Club because
Yeah.
they just don't.
Yeah, I can email seeing if they're interested, and if they are, even if like maybe their art classes, they want to. This is like a project. They want to like make these stickers or something. I don't exactly know what's possible, but
I think Howling Designs probably has the capability of printing off clear lettering
and then they could
stickers
do
they could put on.
they could paint them or color them in or something.
Yeah, or they could be just even like that, just on a mirror with the words on there. So lots of options anyway.
Or maybe quotes or what allyship is, or that's you. It could come from that committee.
Yeah.
Maybe if I know the high school does have an after school type group.
Okay, so I'll
I just
email
don't know what they're
them.
called.
I'll email asking their interest in doing these decals on their mirrors, and then also asking if they want to provide any quotes for our
Yeah,
poster.
perfect. And then you can pick and choose. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to complicate our life at all, but allyship is about supporting everybody. It's
Yep.
not, so we have a really active accessibility committee, and getting a quote from them, which I can do.
Okay.
Lucy Bingley's the chair, and this is there's a special day coming up. We're red.
Yeah, towards the end of the month, 20.
Yeah.
28.
So there's a lot of people need allies. We all do.
Yeah.
So let me see if I could get something.
Perfect. Awesome.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, number 2 in our priority issues, Smith Falls, Canada, Ukraine, Twin Cities Initiative. So we introduced this topic a while ago, and so over the last couple of months, I've had conversations with the proponents, who Ukrainian Canadians and the Ukrainian Embassy, who were eager to see if we would partner with a community in Ukraine. We went through a number of communities to try and determine the best fit based on location, based on the type of community, the size of the community. So council supported a twinning on Monday with Zolochiv, which is in western Ukraine, not too far from Lviv, about an hour from Lviv. And it's a community of about 24,000 people within an urban area, and then it does have some area outside of it with more population, but probably some similar demographics to our community. Community which was really hit hard through World War II. A large Jewish community within Zolochiv, and they were, anyway, we know the horrors of the Holocaust and how impacted that community was. So they've had the same mayor. I spoke with him on Monday. He's been mayor since 2010. And so it'll be ratified by their council on, I think, May 15th. And so it's a open-ended twinning partnership. There's a lot of things that we can consider from well beyond moral support. So I'm hoping maybe this committee can maybe potentially play a role in doing some brainstorming on some methods of how we can make connections between the two communities, how we can potentially connect kids from both communities, how we can share arts and culture potentially, how we can provide further moral support. It's not a financial arrangement. It's more a matter of a cultural, potentially educational exchanges, all these things that a twinning would normally bring to the two communities.
What's the name of the town?
Zolochiv.
How
So
do you spell it?
Zollochiv.
I think I put the motion in the package, Katie.
CHIV. Yeah.
Okay.
The resolution's in the package too, so you have it.
So open to,
The schools used to do a thing where they filled the little shoe boxes with things of need, but perhaps we could fill it with art and things like that and send it to the kids there. Maybe they could do the same and send back type thing, you know, just to share between the younger kids, something.
Or like
Yeah.
a pen pal
A
project.
pen
as
pal
well.
project, letters to the towns or whatever.
That's the first thing that came to my mind was pen pal.
I mean, it can all go as one package from this school. These are all, you know, and then they'll have a pen pal. Maybe it'll continue outside of that.
yes.
And please forgive me for my ignorance, but I know in the Ukraine, there is a language Ukrainian. Is English also taught for like reading and writing?
Yes, but it's not. It hasn't been for that long.
Okay.
So I think some children have had the exposure to it. Most adults, I don't think, have.
Okay.
So when we spoke via Zoom on Monday, we had an interpreter.
Okay. Because
But maybe
maybe,
this would be good too with the language.
yeah.
They could, this is how we say this, this is how we say, you know, and between the pen pals, they can learn each other's
Yeah.
language.
Yeah, and so even though Zolochiv is in the west, they have had missile attacks. There's always the threat. So like anybody in any war-torn country, they feel the stress of what's happening. Mayor Harinka's two sons are soldiers and at the front, and so it's so everybody in the community is impacted. They've had members of the community they've lost, soldiers who have had to go and fight. So it's just think of the trauma, the world they live in every single day, and how we can provide a little bit of hope and solidarity with them. So I guess it's a matter of we can certainly connect with the schools. I think they would probably welcome an opportunity to get involved. Nothing will be official until mid-month. I think we can still start to put some work and some thought into it.
So it would take having a pen pal per se would take the stress off the children. And, you know, start at the bottom and work our way up type thing.
Yeah.
And even if we did like a pen pal, but instead of focusing on words, we could look at pen pal through pictures. So do it drawings, or maybe even doing, I know in some spaces they do, like they swap classrooms. So a grade 3 class and a grade 3 class. And they do a scrapbook, or just things that are meaningful to them, pictures of their playground, or, you know, just a little blurb of what they ate for dinner last night kind of thing, just to share a little piece of their history and culture and switch it. But it's hard because you don't want to be insensitive to
Look what I have in you.
yeah, and you know, when you're in this space of trauma and hardship, you know, we want to be supportive while also being mindful of what they're going through. So there's a fine line too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it is important for the
Yeah.
kids here to understand what is going on over there.
It'll give much greater insight.
Yeah, and I think it's a good teaching lesson for both sides, I think. If we start at the kids and move up?
I have to think a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Additional thoughts? Comments, Peter?
Do you know their structure, like their committee structure? Do they have a, is there a committee we could liaison with?
I would suspect eventually, I said he's bringing it to his council on the 15th.
Okay,
Yeah, so after that,
we don't know how they,
no.
they probably might have something to do with recreation or parks or.
Yeah.
Just trying to see how committee to committee we could.
Okay. Well, I think that's one thing we could even suggest that they have, or he's probably already thinking about it. They do have relationships with 2 other communities, I think one in Poland and one in, remember, Slovakia,
Bringing that one down as well.
another East European country.
I have to go
Okay.
back to the email.
Uh,
I don't remember either.
At the very least, we could put just a gift package together and mail it to them from our committee or from the town to say, we're delighted to be, here's some chocolate or I don't know what, cannabis,
Locals.
something.
Sun Putin.
Nice to have a Jeffrey's job.
Okay, so put some thought into this if when you get a chance, and we can bring it back up. We'll sort of maybe a standing item on our agenda as we move forward. Okay. Updates from the April meeting, community garden.
So
Carrie?
I sent this out to everybody via email, but just for anybody who may be watching and who's been following some of the discussions we've had. So I did follow up with the Heritage House Museum because we've discussed there at a couple meetings about the gardens that they had. So at this point, apparently they're not available for the public this year. The Horticultural Society plans to extend their garden, and they've got a collaboration with the food bank. So still good news, but it won't be used for the public this year. So we'll, maybe for 2026, but still good news. Still good news. The other items on the agenda, I'm probably combining number 6 on our agenda up into number 3 here, but we presented the interim report to Committee of the Whole on Monday evening. And in that was the recommendation to officially change the name, as well as to change the terms of reference to use our 4 priorities instead of the ones that had been listed previously. Council was very receptive of that and were very complimentary and supportive of all the work that this group did, and I'll let Mayor Panko elaborate on that. But all in all, it was a good meeting, and they were very receptive to those changes. As well for the food insecurity motion, that was passed Monday evening as well, and with really full support from Council. The other items, the public arts policy, that was circulated to all of you. And as well, the link to the tenants' rights webinar. I am going to follow up with Joanne Plantz here at the town of Smith Falls to see if she can put that at the top of our Facebook page, just to get that recirculated again, because there's a lot of good info on that. And as well, that had an update from Economic Development, and they are going to link the county's listing of units on our page as well, so that it becomes, that was something that Linda had brought up. So we are going to link that, so it's another resource on the town page. But Mayor Pango, did you want to speak more to the council's comments on the interim report or the food insecurity motion?
Well, just great to have full support. And so just, I guess, reaffirm what we are doing here, and knowing that when we make decisions here and advance priorities here, we have the full support of council. And which is very reassuring, and knowing that, especially when we talk about things like allyship, everything we do, we've got a complete community and the council and the town behind us.
Peter? How do we amplify that report now that it's been validated or not validated, supported by council? How do we, other than putting on there, do we do a press release, or do we, because there'd be a lot of people still not know about the committee, which is fine.
Yeah, good point. We could probably work with Joanne to take maybe do a piece, press release, maybe even on the progress of the interim report.
The report.
Yeah, take the report, condense it down a little bit.
Where we've been and where we're going, we're still here.
Yeah.
And I think the allyship pamphlet will help with that as well, circulating the name a bit more, Smith Falls Equity for All, even if it just gets people going on the Facebook page or Googling what the committee actually is.
Anything on food insecurities and things like that, I can forward to the Falls Food Hub web, or their webpage, or their, as well as the Facebook page, to just expand that even more.
And I already had one local business owner reach out to me. I met with her yesterday about doing some, running a training course on basically meal preparation and food preservation. So it's something I've already talked to Ashley, or sent an email, Ashley Curtis from the Food Hub, to see about providing linkages anyway. And so that is just a result of the work we're doing. She sees a need in the community and wants to try and help out with that. So
I was at WAC one afternoon, and the kids were making butter chicken and their own naan bread.
Yeah.
wow,
I know.
stop and have some.
I know.
They're really doing well.
And I know at the youth center, there are community partners that come in with a plethora of ingredients and teach the kids firsthand how to make it, how to preserve it, what it looks like to freeze the item, shelf life, trying to get some, tangible learning skills for adulthood.
Marvelous.
Well, we live in a world where most of the results of our gardening efforts come over about a month. And we live in a world of abundance for a short period of time. So having the ability to know how to preserve some of this stuff and keep it through the winter is invaluable. Really, the food bank's going to have more of a supply of fresh vegetables, and how do you make sure that people can use them beyond a few days?
Get a freeze dryer.
Or maybe this is something too for the future in the fall when things start to slow down, is doing a canning class or preserving through the winter. Just offer it with some community partners.
Freeze-dried food is shelf stable for 25 years, and it only loses, it maintains 98% of the nutrition as well as the shape.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm working on something.
Yes.
I haven't worked on it. That's just a snippet.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, so we covered community garden, interim report, food security and declaration. And I guess it's keep these things in mind. And we've got our pillars, and so we have ideas that we can help work on that fight against food insecurity and improve food security. We need to do so. Okay. Moving ahead, renovation bylaws. So we brought this up in the last meeting. We've got a couple of videos. We have time. Yeah, we're moving along pretty good today. Do you want to start with the first one, the TVO one?
The TVO one?
Yeah. This is on YouTube. It'll help explain renovations.
Will we have this YouTube link? Can we get this link so we can send it out? Sure. Post it to a few sites.
So this initially started in BC. It was New Westminster, BC, which brought in the first.
One loss after another. Just the persistence of it. It's just, there's no relief.
I'm on ODSP with illness, and I can't afford the rents that are out there, and I truly will be homeless.
I have never renovated anyone in my 10 years. I am a very, very nice landlord.
I characterize the passing of these bylaws as a love letter to Hamiltonians who rent.
The City of Hamilton has had a 983% increase in the number of renovation notices, or N13s, between 2017 and 2022. And while renovictions are legal, not all of them are legitimate. In January, city councilors unanimously voted for a bad faith renoviction bylaw that's set to begin in 2025. The bylaw is the first of its kind in Ontario. Only one other exists in Canada, in New Westminster, British Columbia. It's expected that license fees will cover about 10% of the costs to run and staff the program. Hamilton taxpayers will cover the rest, at approximately $800,000 a year. Hamilton Ward 3 councillor Nurinder Nan has spent more than 5 years working towards passing the anti-renoviction bylaw.
I believe that Hamilton has one of the highest rates of renoviction in the province because we've had a really interesting story to tell in terms of the rental market. 10 years ago, Hamilton was a place where you could afford to buy a home, and many people came not only to buy their own homes, but to develop their own rental property portfolios. So we had a lot of land speculation come in. We had a lot of people buying up properties because they were much more affordable to do here in Hamilton than they were in other parts of the GTHA. So this bylaw is called the Renovations License and Relocation Bylaw, and it requires landlords 7 days prior to issuing an N13 to apply for a license with the City of Hamilton. And in that license, they have to give us some very basic information about the apartment or unit that they're about to renovate. The number of units in the building, the caliber of the work, the description of the work, as well as some certified professional backup that describes the nature of the renovations that are taking place, so that we can have some assurances as a municipality that if it's plumbing, if it's electrical, etc., that has been appropriately vetted by a regulated, certified practitioner who can then put their name and professional credibility behind the fact that the unit needs to be vacated in order for the work to take place. The other step that the landlord is responsible for in the license application process is to then notify the tenants of their basic rights. So we have put together a tenant rights and protection package that we can provide to the landlord, and it's their obligation to provide that information to tenants. So if not directly into their hands, then definitely post it in the building in a common area where everybody can see it. The next step is that the landlord is obligated, as they are under the provincial regulation, to provide a relocation. So if you're expecting the tenant to vacate the apartment in order for you to facilitate this work, then you need to make sure that the tenant that you're asking to vacate, that they are not burdened any further. So you have an obligation to temporarily house the tenant that you're kicking out for the duration of the renovation, or provide a rent supplement, like a top up, if you will, in order to facilitate the tenants to find a location elsewhere while the work is happening. And reminding tenants that they have the first right of refusal to return to that unit. Should a landlord not comply in the City of Hamilton, they will be charged up to $500 per unit per day for being out of compliance.
As part of our upcoming budget, we're going to create a Canadian Renters Bill of Rights. It would create a nationwide standard for lease agreements, give renters a clear history of apartment pricing so they can bargain fairly, and make sure they have more agency. We're also going to launch a new legal aid fund that will protect tenants against unfairly rising rents, renovictions, and bad landlords.
Daniel Chin is a real estate investor and landlord in Hamilton.
80% of all rental units were built before 1980. And of course, when you do the math, that's more than 40, 50, 60 years old. And most of these buildings require a lot of renovations for it to be in good repair today. Hence, in that time period, as you mentioned, 2019 to present date, there has been a spike in the N13 notices. Regarding bad faith renovictions, we don't condone it. And when you have the new imposer bylaw, renovation bylaw, which passed in January this year, it creates a lot more problem for all landlords, even the good ones, and that's not a good thing. The cost of licensing fee, $715 per unit and $125 to renew annually. It's most of these things that were mentioned in the renovation bylaw in Hamilton was already stipulated in Bill 97, Helping Home Buyers and Protecting Tenants Act, as you just mentioned. And as mentioned, it will create a lot of problems in addition to the existing ones. So when you look at the renovation bylaw, it will cost the city $1 million to implement, but only 10% cost recovery. But in terms of post-implementation, the whole thing will be a lot of problems. It's not as simple as you get an engineering report, you get the building permits, and then you get the approval, you spend the time, the money to follow through on renovating. And post-renovation, the tenant has a right of refusal to move back into the rental unit that is totally renovated and paying the original price that they were paying before. Any property owner would look at that as it's not too sound, it's not reasonable. They may consider simply just deciding to sell.
Lauren Macmillan has been living in his East Hamilton apartment for 10 years. He's been fighting a bad faith renovation.
In October of last year, I received an N13 notice from my landlords, and it stated that I had 3 months to move out because they wanted to, demolish the unit and do renovations, and I couldn't be here and wasn't allowed to come back. I feel that it's a bad faith renovation, and because of repairs that I had requested, and ended up with property standards and the fire inspector forcing them to do things like put in proper fire doors and all this stuff. The landlord didn't want to do that, and we believe that it was retaliation, and as well to double the rents, which is probably even more so their incentive. I'm on ODSP with illness, and I can't afford the rents that are out there, and I truly will be homeless if I'm evicted. And there's almost no shelter spaces and no affordable housing in Hamilton.
Erin Fabello is awaiting the outcome of her landlord-tenant board hearing. She received a renovation notice in 2022 after residing in her unit for 10 years.
They were offering us $3,000 plus 3 months rent to leave. One tenant took it. Another offer came a few months after that for $5,000 to leave within 3 months. 2 tenants took it, left us with 9 tenants. Then last fall we got our collective offer to settle. It was $70,000 split up between all of the remaining tenants, which would be a payout of $7,777.77 each. And there was a bit of we had to either, I don't want to say it was like a caveat, but in order for it to happen, everybody had to be on the same page. Everybody had to accept the offer or it was going to be pulled off the table. There was talk of asbestos, which is the first time I've ever heard about it, how they're concerned about our health and safety. But I don't really see any concern for our health and safety because nobody's been out to do any maintenance or even clean the halls or wash the doors. It's been really stressful. I I've lost a lot. Since 2018, it's just been one loss after another. And I lost my mom a few years ago, and I'm still recovering from that. And I just feel like this is my life. One loss after another. Just the persistence of it. It's just, there's no relief. And to know that next is my home. and I work from home. So if I have no home to work from, I have no job.
Myself, along with Acorn, I was a delegate, and we delegated to tell our stories and convince the councillors that it was the right thing to do. It will prevent a lot of bad faith renovictions that are just simply to double, triple the rent, and it puts some power back in the tenant's hands again.
I'm going to the city council and delegating in front of them, and this shouldn't have taken so long to actually do something about it. I mean, all you have to do is look out your front window and there's tents everywhere. I mean, people sleeping on benches, people sleeping in their cars. And it's great that, Hamilton's passed this anti-renovation bylaw, but what does it do for the people who just poured out their pain and all their trauma to the city councilors? How is that helping us? I understand it comes into effect in 2025, but what about now? It's all about now, and that's great moving forward, but now is the time for help. Every one of us who's delegated, we're left in the air, and it's basically sorry about your luck. That's how it feels. Like they could maybe the city feels they can afford to lose a few more people to the streets.
There's over 200,000 renters in Hamilton, and in my ward alone, over 50% of my tenants or my residents are tenants. And so, I think there is a misconception that elected office should only represent homeowners. The reality at the end of the day is we represent every resident in our communities. And when you've got, when I have the reality that majority of my neighbors are renters, and they've been sharing their anecdotes and their experiences with council since 2019, we have an obligation to no longer just provide a microphone for people to air out their grievances, but to really reconcile and challenge ourselves as a municipality to identify what are the levers that are available to our level of government to reduce the harm that is being created in our communities, to make sure that we can protect affordable housing, and more importantly, create sustainable, resilient communities and enable those of our tenants who live in our neighborhoods and who've been contributing so richly to our communities that they have a right to stay in place.
The effects on the renovation bylaw on small landlords, or the mom and pop landlords, or the retail investors, if you want to call it, it would actually hurt them a lot more. And these are just the everyday Canadians that are working a job. Yes, it is an investment for them, but in some cases it is to reduce some's monthly expense, and they also have to work a job at the same time. So when they face these challenges, it's much harder and it makes them think otherwise of actually being a property owner, and simply just either becoming a renter or owning just their principal residence.
Well, I'd like to tell people that if you've got a renovation notice, chances are your landlord just wants to double or triple your rent. You've done nothing wrong. As scary as it is, there's a lot of help. It's your home, and a lot of people, they've been at their homes for 20, 30 years, and it's a devastating thing to happen. So I just recommend that people fight back and organize. Make a tenant group in your building.
Buckle up. It's a bumpy ride. This is not something I would wish on my worst enemy.
I really do believe that once we're able to staff up and roll out the programs, we'll have consistency across the city, ensuring that the homes that are available to our renting population are safe, that they are designed and protected in a way that their rights will be upheld, and that as a municipality we have our eyes on this. We're paying attention, and now we'll have the data and information that we need from our landlord community in order to make sure that the appropriate boxes are being checked and that compliance is happening, and we'll have the ability to enforce if we need to.
more. So in Smiths Falls, it's over 45% of people rent their homes. And I know just my own personal experience and people who reach out to me, the N13s have been fairly common over the last number of years. And in many cases, they're given to tenants with the position really that this is, you need to move out. And with many not understanding their rights. We've talked about that in the past. And the reality today that if the majority of people who are renting today lose their home, they are looking at least probably doubling or more if they can find another place in the cost of their expenses, which then causes further issues with food insecurity and everything else that happens. So it's a very prominent issue here. And when we consider a rent eviction bylaw, it's respecting the laws that are in place today, but at the same time respecting the investors in our community who are purchasing properties and looking after tenants, at the same time wanting to ensure that the citizens of our community, especially those who are lower income, fixed income, don't have the ability to adapt and move somewhere else, have all the protections in place. The educational piece is what we talked about before. It's very important. The question becomes, does the law adequate today to protect our citizens when an N13 comes in? Or should we as a group consider possibility of a rent eviction bylaw and a recommendation to council? Is the video ready?
Yep, he didn't want to cut you off. When you were
Okay,
speaking.
yeah, because this really sums up nicely.
What is rent eviction? Not renovation, not eviction, rent eviction. The word rent eviction is surprisingly self-explanatory. It's when a landlord evicts a tenant to perform major renovations on a rental unit, with the emphasis on major, because to qualify, the renovations must be so extensive that they require a building permit. Now you might be thinking, is that even legal? Well, it depends on where you live, as the laws change from province to province. But to perform a rent eviction in Ontario, the province that I'm in, provincial law says that landlords must give their tenants an N13 notice 120 days, about 4 months, in advance of said renovations, telling them they need to move out by a certain day. However, under the same provincial law, tenants are allowed to stay until they receive a legal order from the Landlord-Tenant Board. The tenant being rent evicted also has the right to first refusal, which means they have first dibs to lease the unit again at the same price once the renovations are complete, if the tenant wants to move in again after renos. The landlord is required to give them an amount of money equal to 1 to 3 months rent, depending on the number of units in the complex, or rent for however long the renovations take, whichever is less. However, if the tenant doesn't want to come back after renos, the landlord has to compensate them the equivalent of 1 to 3 months rent, again depending how many units are in the complex, or offer them a different unit that the tenant is okay to live in. Now we all want to believe that landlords are well intentioned when giving rent eviction notices and are really just fixing the unit. And that's definitely true for some. But according to the City of Toronto, there's been a trend of landlords serving rent eviction notices to their renters to get them to leave so they can take advantage of the inflated rental market and release the property at a higher price. Now you might be thinking, why don't renters just say they'll move back in once renovations are done? That way the landlords can't relist the property and they get a better place at the same low rent. Well, in theory, yes. Tenants have the right to rent the space again, but they might not be aware of that right. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know about rent eviction laws when your landlord serves you with the notice and offers you money to leave and doesn't tell you about the alternative, there's a high chance you'll take the offer, especially if you feel intimidated by them or the situation. Okay, but let's say a tenant does know about their right of first refusal and says they want to move back into the unit after the renos are done, but the landlord doesn't tell them when everything's settled and rents it to someone else. What can they do then? Well, since the onus to prove the landlord acted in bad faith is on the tenant, they could take them to court. Or if it's within a year of the move, pay to file a T5 application with the Ontario Landlord-Tenant Board to fine the landlord. The problem is, though, that that's a lengthy and potentially expensive process which might require them to hire legal representation. And many tenants may not have the resources to fight back. which is why it's so easy for landlords to take advantage of renters. Listen, I know this all seems very bleak, but the most effective way of being able to protect your rental rights is knowing those rights. And watching this video was a good first step in doing that. And now you know what a renoviction is and what it entails. Thanks for watching this episode of TVO's What is Explainers. If you want to watch more videos like this one, you can click around me. If you want to suggest another topic for me to explain, you can tweet me at 500 Days of Ariana. And if you enjoyed this video, you can push the like button and subscribe to the channel for more educational content. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Okay, sums it up pretty well. I mean, so we heard from a landlord, and I think if we introduce this, have bigger discussions, comes to council, we'll hear from landlords in town, many who may be resistant to it. Same time, we want to make sure that we are not providing a barrier to landlords wanting to do work and people living in situations where they probably need renovations to their unit just for basic needs. So it can't be too onerous, or we run the risk of people living in environments which are not suitable either. So there's a lot of considerations here. So let's open it up for discussion.
I could see that with the Hamilton. They're just not going to bother doing them at all because it's so difficult.
I see landlords, just saying,
forget it.
But if you look at, for New Westminster, what was the cost? The 800,000?
Hamilton was 800,000.
Or Hamilton was? Okay, I thought New West was.
That's about $1.50 per resident. So I don't think we do it for $1.50 per resident. But we would have to investigate and see
what the tax pay costs, because
what's the burden on our existing staff, or could existing staff handle the volume of work that may come with this?
But you'd have to make it good for both sides, sort of thing. Like you don't want them to say, well, forget it, I'm not gonna fix that room, just let it go moldy. You know what I mean? Because it's too expensive to do, and now people are living in substandard.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a property standards bylaw which could overcome some of that, but it's quite a process. So if the tenant complained, I've got mold in my unit, my landlord is doing nothing about it, that may, if it's a health issue, property standards can come in, but the laws are such that you can put an order on the property, you can force them to do it, but it may take several months or longer before you ever get compliance. If you don't get compliance, then you may have to go in and do the work and charge it to them. So I mean, there's a long journey to try and get things done, even though there's a possibility of getting things done.
Especially if it's an older unit, and the biggest thing would be upgrading electrical, because that's where fires start, is substandard electrical. So, and that's a major thing, because you have to go into all the walls and everything. So somebody would have to be evicted for that, and if it's a huge process and a lot of money, are they going to do it, or just leave the 1920s electrical in there?
Well, and the reality is that if they have to apply for building permit, then the building inspector could come in, the fire inspector would come in. They may know that there is limitations that require more work than even what they're planning to do. So they force them to say, well, I'm going to keep things under, they'll get a building permit. Peter?
I think we could ask our building department for applications for building permits, from landlords to renovate apartments that did go through the process already, what the volume is. I wouldn't mind knowing the last couple of years. I'm really pleased to see a lot of those older places being improved. They needed them, and then lots of them, there's still a lot of really rough spots. So I just wonder what the data is at the current people who follow the process.
Mm-hmm.
And who issues the N13s? Like, where does that come from? Does that come from the town or the tenant board?
Landlord.
The landlord. But where does the physical N13 form come from? Online, okay. Because one suggestion in my head was, what if we, put on that form that tenants had the first right of refusal? Give a little education piece while they get it. My second question is, it looks like in order to obtain a license from the city, in this example, was $715. If town council, chooses to go forward with this, there could be some movement in that price. So not as much as $715. It could be cheaper to obtain a license. if that's the way the town wants to go. That might release some barriers from landlords.
But yeah, a bylaw that stated if
Yeah.
for every landlord that issues the N13, there has to be an explanation of the right to refusal with that. I mean, something as simple as that, so that they know their rights.
I think within the N13 form, that is actually disclosed.
Maybe people just aren't reading.
Is it
They're
okay?
very
Because I'm
good.
like, if it's on the N13 form, then
The
think
landlord
we
tenant
can
boards
do.
forms are very good. The forms are pretty simple, and then they always come with an information package, and it's plain language. I've looked at them a lot.
Yeah.
They're quite good. Now, that doesn't mean our tenants who are don't have a lot of advantages aren't getting.
Yeah.
So it's there are people that don't know, but it is pretty accessible. It is easy. A lot of agencies know it. The county does a good job, but there's more. It's still happening.
Okay.
So
education seems to be
always.
our biggest limitation. Yeah.
And the legal clinic in Perth, which represents all of Leonard County, Linda Tranter, I talked to her about this or communicated with her with this. She said N13s are one of the things they deal with the most, and most of the N13s are dealing with are from Smiths Falls. So there is due process, and again, if tenants are aware, they're able to take advantage of the legal clinic. And I think in most cases, they will, one, look at the support they need. Two, in many cases, they will win in most cases, as long as things are being done properly. But the tenant also has to make sure that they are there for the virtual hearing. And if they're not, then the landlord tends to win the case, right? So I guess the question becomes, how do we want to form a small group here to dig deeper into this, or maybe it's even Peter and I can then talk to staff, check in with the building department. I can connect with Linda.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what over the past what it's cost landlords to go through the process legally and properly without, what it costs them for permits and everything, just so we have a little bit of background on it.
Now, if those will have just whatever they apply for. It won't know if the tenant came back. We wouldn't have that data.
No, okay.
But, in that
It's just
form.
the cost of the process anyway.
Just how many are doing
many, yeah,
renovations
for
in their
sure.
apartments? How many have been done would tell us. And then of those, is it 10% or we don't know about the ones that are done, improperly.
Unfortunately.
But it would give you a sense of how much is going on. I suspect quite a bit properly. But
Probably more than we're aware of. And many that don't reach the legal clinic and our tenant board, right? I know people who've just moved out.
Scared.
Yeah.
I know I've seen things on Facebook as well that say, my landlord just gave me 3 months and I got nowhere to live, blah, 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 and I just know your rights.
Yeah, this is it. You don't look them up.
No, you need to know your rights, and maybe there's something we can put out. Like I said, even the link to the video, I can throw it on a few Facebook pages. Just as long as we have flood it with information, then people can take some, all, none. It's on them as well.
But many are also quite intimidated when that happens. And if you're already in crisis mode and now you're told you got to move in 3 months.
Yeah, and your rent now is going to be 2-3 times higher than what you've paid, and I get the panic.
Peter?
my sense is that the awareness has gone up because it's happening more often than it used to. So there is awareness is better. We're all alert to it. We're having these conversations. 5 years ago, it was kind of a hidden problem. Now it's pretty public. So I hope it's gotten better. I don't know about a bylaw. I don't know if that's the tool. Some more data would help and more conversations.
Any experience from you?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I think, I think I'd be keen to join a little committee to talk about it all.
Okay. You want the 4, but that's okay if you guys go before Russell, then spend a little time trying to work on this and bring it back. Okay.
Yeah, I think more information is needed.
Sean.
He's just volunteered me.
It's because you're sitting.
Okay. Well, 3 of us anyway.
Yes.
We choose your seat for the next meeting.
I personally don't know enough about it, but when I'm hearing this and I'm watching the video, I really think while the bylaw is like a potential tool, it comes back to what she said, like people don't know what they don't know, and if they're in crisis mode, like I really think that we can be putting effort into a bylaw, but I really think that the effort needs to go into how can we be supporting tenants and how can we be providing resources and.
Is there like some sort of tenant hotline or something out there?
That would be great.
I don't know. I got all the calls.
We'll just give them your number.
Yeah.
The mayors get calls.
Yeah.
People
And
who are on the ground get the call.
Yeah, and I think that's like part of it, right? Like, people panic and they don't have somebody in their corner to kind of help them and calm them down through it. I had a young individual who like up and gave notice. And it was like, no, stop. Like, you don't have to tell anybody anything. And I think, when people get served N13s or when the police are involved or, anyone of an authority figure, you kind of panic and you just like want out. And I think, if we can provide more education and information to folks and make it accessible for them to be like, just call and be like, hey, like, what do I do? Sometimes people just need a couple days to like, a little bit of coaching, a little like settle down, like we've got this, we can do it together. I mean, I'm for a bylaw. I do think we have to look at, how that's going to affect landlords, but I think there's also like a lot of grants out there right now to create affordable housing that can support the landlords through it. So I would say I'm for the bylaw. But I just think, we can look at how can we make it the most supportive and accessible for folks. I think also, like when we're talking about the N13, there's a lot of literacy issues I think that people, forget about, and people tend to just sign things without fully being able to read them and understand them. And so just again, kind of having that space to like go through it and have someone explain it to you, like, do you know that's what it says? Absolutely. But do you know what that means? And do you know how that affects you? And those kinds of conversations.
And just to that, I think I mentioned before, last summer, I think it was, or last June, a landlord, it was July, so a landlord issued, came in and bought multiple properties up in town, and Linda and I hosted a session for 20 of the tenants because they were told right away, within a week of him taking over ownership, that you have to move out. And had not even issued N13, just went in everybody's door and said, you're paying $500 more a month, or you're moving out. If you don't move out, I'm going to demolish the buildings. We were an hour into the probably 2-hour meeting before they finally started to realize that they may not have to move out. Despite Linda being there representing the legal clinic and myself from the town, explained to them, no, you do not need to move out. You do not need to accept this. You do not need to sign a new lease. You do not have to agree to higher rent. But again, they were so stricken with fear that you can't see beyond that.
Well, it's a trust thing, right? Like, no offense, but like, why would I believe you, Sean? Like, you're the mayor of the town, but like, why, right? And so I think it is that relationship building, having that, identifying a little bit more for folks, like who's trustworthy, like who's advocating for what, like what the stances are on certain things, what the beliefs are, right? Like if you're in any other kind of aspect, if you're feeling attacked or discriminated against or, in a vulnerable position, like you're not going to disclose information and trust people when they're telling you what to do if there's no rapport there. And I think when it comes to housing, we don't, like, yes, there's social workers in housing, but, we're not, not all of us are social workers, right? Like it's a very professional, very business orientated space. And so you're not always met with empathy, and, you know, your services aren't always given to you as if you are a person who's vulnerable. And so that also creates a barrier, right? Like within all spaces, right? Like that trauma-informed care and those practices are really important for folks who are vulnerable and in crisis. And, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, we got to work on it everywhere, but like specifically, I would say from my experience in housing, because it hasn't typically been a social services space. It's been a for business space. And so it hasn't been a human rights space. So I think even just being able to provide training to, you know, different property managers and to landlords, like how to mediate and have conversations with your tenants. And, you know, if more landlords and tenants, you know, were aware of the supports that were available for their tenants, they might be more apt to support them. You know, so for example, this young individual that I was working with the other day, like he gave his notice and I was like, wait, buddy, bad idea, don't do that. Like you need to let me call. And so when I was able to call the landlord and they were able to know like, hey, these are actually all the supports that are available to you and all the supports that are available to the tenant, they're much more like, oh yeah, I'm so down to work. Like buddy can stay, whatever. I didn't know those were available for him and I didn't know those were available for me. Like that's really great. And so I think it is taking that like really human approach to it. Like let's make everybody happy in this situation, and acknowledge that housing is a human right. So I do think it's a bigger conversation.
Definitely. Any further thoughts?
Well, I think everything you just said ties into, while the N13 package might include information on tenant rights, it comes down to who's the person providing you that package. How exactly did they present you that information? If you're already dealing with other things going on in your life, the last thing you want is for your safe space to become something that's on the line and to not know where to go. So even if it says in there that you have rights, the person who presented that information to you, you're like, well, do I really have them? Because it doesn't feel like I do in this moment, because the last thing I wanted was for this unexpected situation to come up. And now to exercise my right of first refusal, I know immediately that I'm creating a conflict in some way, is what it feels like, even though they're actually just exercising their right. But naturally it's like, okay, well, I want to avoid this conflict. I don't have room for it in my life. And I don't trust the information that's provided for me. So I really agree with like how information is presented and what we can do to provide more accessible information, but a more supportive network for tenants, because yeah, I'm kind of losing my thought, but
some of them are coming out of homelessness into a place that they finally can call their home, and now they're handed paper that says you don't have a home anymore in their mind. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think a lot of that part comes
well,
in.
and I think like a lot too, like for folks who have, say like me, not vulnerable, I have access to a lot of things. I could turn around and print off an N13, sign it, and go hand it to Buddy next door. Mm-hmm. Like I don't own any property, you know what I mean? Like, but you know, Buddy doesn't. I could walk up, print a form off, sign it, and be like, Buddy, you're getting evicted. And he could be like, who are you? I don't know, your property manager, your neighbor, like the owner. I just like, right? Like, so for when things are accessible for folks who have access to things, right, there is that power dynamic instantly. And so knowing that kind of information, right? Like Nicole, you were even asking, where does an N13 come from? Like, there's literally nothing stopping me from printing one off and handing it to somebody. So, you know, that power dynamic comes into play as well. And I mean, a landlord's obviously going to use that to their advantage, right? Yeah. If I'm wanting to get rid of somebody, absolutely, I'm going to put my best dress suit on. I'm going to hand them a form and be like, get out. And that's it. I'm not going to have a sit and have a conversation with them. And so having that space for folks to like be able to call and have that humanity aspect to it, I think is really important. And, you know, a lot of times folks are calling their OW workers and their ODSP workers like for supports, and you know, nothing against the workers. There's some really great workers out there, but they are overwhelmed and they are overcapacitated. Like the homelessness response team, same thing. Like it's a busy, trying time. And so I do think the education needs to be within the whole community. And, you know, folks should be able to access this in different kind of methods, whether that's a pamphlet, whether that's the videos being shared, right? Like so that people can access it in different forms.
You could have a phone number and just have a video, not a video, a message on the phone stating their rights.
Katie, you don't want to answer the phone?
No,
You don't want to?
no, I could say it, tape it, but you could, and you know, no one would be involved. I mean, the person could just phone, and then they'd hear the story of their rights.
I wonder if that's something the legal clinic could actually put as a
Yeah.
option within their phone system. Okay.
Press
And
one to know your
take
rights.
anybody's time or
Yeah.
anything else.
One for 13, two for.
Yeah, exactly. Just sort of having, and it not going on and on and on, just here are your rights, and here is
Yeah.
a number that you need to call if you want more
Yes,
information, which would be the tenant act or wherever you would call.
Okay, so we'll take this away, do some work on it.
Yeah. I think it boils down to education.
Absolutely.
Mostly.
Okay, year at a glance, planning for 2025.
That's just to let everybody know that I'm trying to keep that list up to date that I did for our priorities. And I take things from the conversation that we have and plunk them in. But if something should pop into your head, shoot me an email and I'll add it to the list. It just keeps things front of mind for me when booking delegations and looking for agenda topics. So just keep that in mind when something pops into your head. To text me, email me, because I want to keep that list up to date.
Okay, and we already talked about the updated name in terms of reference.
Yes, so I think I covered most of that
Yeah.
in number 3. So yes, we have a new name now.
Okay.
I like that.
Any closing thoughts before we wrap up? No, thanks for everyone's ongoing participation and purpose. Motion for adjournment from Katie, seconded by Ally. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.